red, white, blue, green, yellow, brown, and grey. The Ajahs and the inhabitants of the White Tower, but who exactly are they? And how are these groups formed within the tower? Who are the people responsible for their creation as well as their responsibilities and designation? Hi, I'm Willa Kodak, and following the cancellation of the Wheel of Time TV series, I have redoubled my efforts to cover as much of the Wheel of Time lore as possible. At the moment, we'll be covering the 7 Ajahs of the White Tower and of course Infamous 8. I'm going to start with the history and formation of the Ajahs. This might be a bit wonky, but bear with me here because originally we had 12 Ajahs, but somewhere along the line, this fizzled down to the 7 we are familiar with. From the books, we know that the word Ajah essentially refers to people who band together for a time in order to achieve a specific purpose. And ideally, once that purpose has been served, they pretty much just split up and go their own way, each to his own. There were in fact no Ajahs, especially not in the way we see them in the current era, which is pre-breaking of the world. Now, let's be careful not to confuse the Ajahs and the White Tower with the Aes Sedai. The Aes Sedai did exist during the Age of Legends, but they didn't have such numerous and defined factions as we see in the current era. So Aes Sedai were simply Aes Sedai, servants of all. No white, no black tower. However, sometime after the breaking of the world, the female Aes Sedai, who were practically the only Aes Sedai left given that the men had got bonkers, retreated to Tavalon where they now congregated. They then selected the first Amalin seat, Al-Shain Tashar, in the year 96 AB, I believe, which by the way, AB stands for after the break-in. So Al-Shain Tashar also commissioned the building of the White Tower, which took about 104 years to build, and as at the time of her election, she was one of 12 Ajahs. So yeah, originally there were 12 Ajahs, the 12 later became 7 that we now know, but we aren't told whether some of these Ajahs merged or were flat out disbanded, what the Ajahs lost were, what their function and purposes were. All we know is that the 12 became the 7. Now we move on to what are Ajahs. As we mentioned earlier, the tower split into 7 Ajahs, essentially powerful sub-factions within the tower dedicated to a particular philosophy / ideology and task within the tower and the world in general. Now, Ajahs are far more than just ideological clubs, although they are distinct socially, politically, and cultural entities within the White Tower. Each has its own set of traditions, its secrets, and sort of internal hierarchy as well as goals. Now, each Ajah has a unique purpose guiding its members' actions. It has its own leader or leaders whose identities are kept secret from outsiders, even from other Aes Sedai within the tower, and often enough from the Amalin seat herself. Each Ajah has its own secret weaves. These are passed down to its members and are never shared outside. It also has its own spy network, often known as the eyes and the ears, bits on the nose, that gather intelligence from across the world. Each Ajah has specific customs that govern everything from the political stances to how members dress within the tower. It has its own sitters, people who represent the Ajah in the Hall of the Towers. Upon being raised to the shore, when an accepted becomes a full Aes Sedai, she chooses which Ajah to join. This is considered a sacred rite of passage, and no woman has ever been denied the Ajah that she requested. The decision is hers and solely hers, and once it's made, it binds her for life. However, there is one well-known exception to this, the Amalin seat. Now, the Amalin seat is considered to be of all Ajahs and of none, so she must put aside her former allegiances to lead all of the tower, quote-unquote, impartially. Still, the Ajah she was raised from is never really forgotten, right? The Ajah gains certain prestige from having produced an Amalin, and often they wield increased influence during the reign of said Amalin. So positions such as positions of the Keeper of the Chronicles or Mistress of the Novices are more frequently filled from her former Ajah, further reinforcing a temporary prominence. Essentially, it's a I'm impartial and for all people but not really kind of situation. This system of Ajahs shapes every aspect of life in the tower: political alliances, voting blocks in the hall, mentorship, rivalries, and even leaderships, right? And friendships. While the tower might appear unified to outsiders, within the walls, Ajah loyalties run deep, and sometimes even deeper than loyalty to the tower itself. In this way, the Ajahs serve as both the tower's greatest strength and one of its oldest sources of division. This is one of the issues I always had with the White Tower. If you ask me, I think the idea of Ajahs was a stupid decision. I mean, what better way to cause split agendas and side quests than to split people into groups that can be readily told apart by just their dressing? So about the Ajah heads. Now, although all Aes Sedai outwardly swear allegiance to the White Tower and the Amalin seat, much of the power's true governance is a tad bit more clandestine than that. Most Ajahs are governed by a single leader. Although I said previously the identity of this woman is often kept secret, even from members of other Ajahs and notably from the Amalin seat herself, only members who are of the same Ajah typically know who truly holds the reins within the sect. These women are not elected by tower-wide votes, nor are their titles officially recognized across Ajahs. Instead, they tend to pull the strings from behind the curtains. And honestly, it's a little wonder that the Black Ajah had such a joyride crashing through the White Tower. I mean, when you think about it, who the hell made these rules? Anyways, each Ajah refers to its leader by a unique title, which is kind of wonky, but it is what it is. It is what it is. The Red Ajah called their leader the highest. I mean, a bit presumptuous if you ask me, but meh. It's the red. The blue Ajahs called theirs the first selector. The green Ajahs called theirs the captain general. For some weird reason, this has me laughing because what? Like, the yellow Ajahs have the first weaver. The grey Ajahs are led by the head clerk. The white Ajahs take directions from the first reasoner. The brown Ajahs are different. They alone are governed not by a single person, but by a council of senior members, with the first chair as the leading voice among them. In most cases, Ajahs are chosen from among the most capable and experienced sisters, those with strong command of the one power and significant service behind them. Many of them often former sitters, and they are all seen as exemplary representatives of their Ajahs' values and goals. One particular case, however, is the red Ajahs. Essentially, they be doing too much, as per standard protocol. Now, among the red sisters, the highest is regarded as equal reverence with the Amaline seat, meaning that commands which are issued by the highest are often treated with the same amount of seriousness and authority as those from the tower's supreme leader. This is a testament to how internally troubled the Red Ajah are in particular, but then again, the whole house does have more than a few screws loose. I'm not just talking, right? The White Tower does suffer significantly because of this system. What makes this internal hierarchy particularly dangerous is its opacity. Since even the Amarin state is rarely aware of who leads each other, these power centers can operate unwatched and unchecked. This flaw was exploited by the Black Ajah, a secret association of Aes Sedai sworn to the shadow. So members of the Black Ajah are usually from every Ajah and are required to expose all of their former Ajah's secrets. Over time, the Black Ajah had compiled the most complete understanding of tower leadership and operations, giving it an invisible edge that threatened the tower from within. To the outside was Aes Sedai united, but within the walls of the tower, beneath all that calm surface, the Ajahs pretty much operated like independent fiefdoms, each ruled by shadow queens. Okay, so we're going to go on to the purpose and role of each Ajah. Blue Ajah, they're basically spies and they deal in intel. They're known for their dedication to causes of justice and righteousness, allegedly, and they have the largest network of spies and informants, making them the eyes and ears of the tower. The Red Ajah are basically super feminists. Think of your average man-hater feminist with special abilities, right? So simply put, they're dedicated to hunting down and gently named challengers considered dangerous to societies. The Red Ajah is one of the largest and most feared historically, including holding a strict stance against men who channel. We have the Green Ajah, essentially Sparta 300. They're known as the Battle Ajah. They are meant to prepare for war, and they are ready to fight the shadow in the last battle time on Gaiden. They are distinct in their practice of bonding multiple warders, sometimes 3 or more, and training extensively in combat and strategy. Yellow Ajahs, they're mostly physicians and healers. They focus on healing. They are premier healers of the tower, and they're often called upon to aid the sick or the injured, and they take great pride in their skill. Their leader is called the First Weaver, a title currently held by Swan or Dragon. Sisters with great talent for healing are typically raised into the Yellow Ajah. Then we have the Brown Ajah. Essentially, they're nerds, right? They dedicate themselves to knowledge and scholarships. They spend their lives studying history, law, the one power, and other disciplines. The Brown sisters usually don't seek political power, but they do wield influence through their expertise. The Brown Ajah is often neutral in terms of tower politics, focusing instead on preserving and expanding whatever knowledge is available. Then we have the White Ajahs, basically philosophers and logicians and theologians and whatnot. They focus on reason and on truth. They are the smallest sect of Ajahs, and they rarely bond warders. The first reasoner leads them, currently Ferein Narahan. For the Grey Ajahs, they are basically diplomats and negotiators, skilled in political intrigue and in mediations, and they balance the tower's interaction with outside forces, and they help maintain internal peace. And finally, we have the Black Ajah. Honestly, they require an entirely separate video, but to keep it short, these are Aes Sedai who are forsaking their old 3 oaths to take up new 3 oaths for the Dark One. They were formed by Shammai during the Sherlock Wars, if I remember correctly, and the rumor of them is more competent than the actual Black Ajah. Naturally, the tower suppressed any acceptance that they existed. Black Ajah is ruled by the Great Council, and we've never really heard of a special title for their leader. Until the last battle, we know that the head of the Supreme Council was in fact Aviaren Frieden. Well, that's all I have for this time. Until next time, the wheel weaves as the wheel reels.